Okay, good evening everybody. Thank you for being here for this evening's meeting of the Communities Public Protection and Housing Scrutiny Review Board. So it's the 19th of January, it's starting just after 6 p.m. Happy New Year to everybody. So we'll go through our agenda. So first item is apologies. We have apologies for this meeting from Councillor Core. Second item is late items to be introduced by the Chair, and there are no late items for this meeting. Third item is declarations of interest. Declarations of interest from anybody at all? Fabulous, thank you. Just so it's on the record, I'll just declare that between October 21 and May 23, I was Cabinet Member for Community Development, Place and Tourism and had a lot of oversight over the Christmas budget at the time, and I'm also a former member of the Business Improvement Districts as well. Neither of those apply now, so I don't think they in any way preclude me chairing the meeting, but just wanted to make sure those were noted and on the record. So item 4 is minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of November 2025. We're all happy that they're a true and correct record of the meeting that we had? Fabulous, thank you. So move on then to the first item in terms of the reports that we've got today. So Christmas in Derby City Centre. As a little bit of an introduction, so the report gives an update on the events and activities which are on offer in Derby City Centre over the Christmas period 2025. Each year the City Council teams up with cultural and business partners to put on the Christmas offer in the city. There are a wide array of things that featured in this year's offer, and that's quite a bit of what we're going to be looking at today. There's been some tweaks to the offer this year from previous years, and I'm sure those that are going to discuss the report with us will inform us all on that. So we have with us Robbie Kerr, who's Head of Culture and Leisure, and Brad Worley from the Business Improvement Districts, who are going to talk to us a bit about Christmas. So Robbie, I'll hand over to yourself.
Okay. I've got that right. Thank you, Chair. So I guess, first of all, there's just important to note there's two main areas of focus for Christmas, which is, first of all, the offer in the city to generate footfall, and then the promotion with partnership venues to amplify everything that's going on in the city and what they do. As you said, there's been investment and tweaking this year to improve the look and feel, the aesthetic in the city centre, improvements to lighting trail, and obviously we've had the opening of the market hall in that time as well, so I'll talk a little bit about the activity there. And I'll just nip through all of the different areas in the report, if that's okay. So for this year, the support activity in the city centre included a TP bar, ice rink, promotion of activity across the city centre partner venues. We had performances in the ice rink from local performers, festive activity in Chapel Street Arts Centre, the festive light trail, family festivities on Mark Eaton Park, and an improved city centre lighting scheme, and we had the pantomime at Derby Arena. As I said, the offer has been tweaked and improved, but not radically altered from previous years. It's estimated that the current offer attracted just under 35,000 people to the marketplace this year, and it generates significant economic activity in the city, which we had similar numbers last year, and that was 2.2 million in 2024. We did, as an appendix, the Festive Derby Guide in the report for circulation so that people can see what we are promoting, but it's a major driver which includes attractions across the city at Art Core, St Werburgh's, Valent Live, the museums, Quad, Banks Mill, Derby and the Market Hall, Derby Theatre, Chapel Street Arts Centre and St Peter's Church. Within that, that's a door drop for 120,000 homes that takes place alongside press releases, social media and organic posts, pre- and post-event press releases, advertising on roadside and island boards, banners in parks, clear channel digital bus shelter boards, and additionally purchased outdoor advertising as well as coverage with Smooth Radio, who are our media partner. Promotion was also provided for bid areas to visit in the city with the incentive of a 2k golden ticket to boost engagement. The overall budget for the offer is 150k. Those costs and income are being accumulated and can be circulated when available. The reason why it's not fully available now is there's things like final costs for fuel, security, staffing, first aid, and taking the commission back from the traders that are working in the different areas, so it does take a bit of a while to pull together. And my team, God love them, have worked 6 weeks straight, and they're still taking everything down and making those things come in together. The budget incorporates income in the TP and the ice rink. We made efficiencies in the ice rink in the past by duty managing in-house to reduce contractor costs, which improved finances last year, which has been repeated again for this year. Anecdotal feedback for the Christmas offer so far has been really positive. Lots and lots of posts on Instagram and social media, particularly around the improvements to the city centre with the lighting, with the trees. The presents are now used as a really useful photographic moment for people to come and hang out in and to take pictures. And we also had the lighting improvements and the decorations on the route through to the market hall. Just to touch on the Christmas light switch on, the Christmas light switch on was moved to a new time and location to compensate for some public realm alterations in front of the council house. We used this opportunity to align with the night market to promote both audiences and bring people together, and it was really successful in the city centre, actually having it in the evening and everything else. We had thousands of people attending on the day, and then 4,000 in the market hall, and for those who went to the night market, you could barely move downside the gate, it was that busy, even during the immediate downpour that seemed to take place after we had the switch on itself. The market hall was a key attraction in the festive offer. The building was decorated, linked into events across the city. We were estimating that over 51,000 people attended the market hall during December, which is really positive. In partnership with the bids, we also had Santa's Grotto located in there for the first year, and we had 1,200 kids, sorry. No. That would have been an incredible return. Over the festive period. Other activities included, we had a New Year's Eve celebration for the family in the daytime, things like British wrestling, ethical Christmas market, as well as pop-up activity and performances, all with local performers as well, so that's really supporting the local cultural economy. For Derby programmes its own offer over the Christmas period, and as a major shopping destination, draws visitors in organically already into the city. We reach out to them as partners to discuss opportunities over the course of the year as details take shape, and coverage of what they do is also promoted in the festive guide. The Nordic Bar for this year, it offered a selection of drinks and programme of free entertainment and attracted more than 22,500 visitors over the time that it was open. And the ice rink also hosted events like a Christmas Eve party, dedicated toddler sessions, and we had more than 11,000 people who had a go on the ice rink over the Christmas period. And to date, no broken bones, I think, which is a welcome first. In terms of the cultural offer more widely, we had Dick Whittington on at the Arena, which was in partnership with Derby Live, the events team at the council, and Little Wolf Entertainment. I think Little Wolf are probably the best pantomime producer in the country. They're incredible. We had 36,000 people attending, which I think is our third best ever, which Dick Whittington's quite a challenging title to have really good sales. So to have those sort of numbers, comparatively, other cities that had it on had 10,000 people less when they used to sell more tickets, so that's really positive. Chapel Street Arts Centre, we had a family-friendly production of Mary Elwyn, The Adventurous Elf, which attracted more than 1,000 people, and then more partnership events. So Derby Theatre, they put on productions of The Tortoise and the Hare, Oliver Twist and A Christmas Carol. Other festive events held at Valent Live, things like the Masters Snooker. Museums had a programme of activity all the way through in Picksford's House. We had carol concerts, special services, hosted across the cathedral, St Werburgh's and St Peter's Church. We have family festivities in Markeaton Park, which takes place in the first weekend of December each year, which has a programme of music, craft fair, outside stalls, elf trail, wreath making, and festive food and drink, which attracted 1,000 people over the 2 days there as well. And then, lastly, just to talk about Christmas this year. So, large elements of the Christmas offer will be retained, but as the current offer it'll be reviewed, we always do a lessons learned, speak to different partners around different opportunities. As part of this process, consideration has to be given to the available budget, any changes in footprint caused by any capital projects on the marketplace in the city centre, which can impact the capacity for how those events are delivered.
Fab, thanks Robbie. Brad, do you want to come in with your side of things as well from the bids? What happened, how has it changed, and how did it go?
Thank you, Chair. This year, I think, again, we've had 3 successful years building year on year, and that proves in the GDV, that's the footfall to the local area. The partnership approach, I think, has proved to work really, really well, and that's only grown year on year. So I think I can vouch for what Robbie said as far as it being a better experience year on year. We had like Robbie said, the golden ticket giveaway. That was over 4,000 tickets that people had to make a special trip into the city centre to post into one of our dedicated post boxes. We're just going through the process of issuing our 4 winners, and again, the feedback's been phenomenal with that. We had the Paddington Bear experience, where people could come in, meet and greet Paddington Bear. Again, several hundred people through the door for that. The giant snow globe for photo opportunities on the marketplace. Again, all of this stuff, as well as the outdoor animation of the streets every weekend throughout December, have added to that footfall. And it's good to see early indications of looking back at our new footfall monitoring system shows that we are on track with previous years. And again, this is a different way of counting to what we have done before, but I think the early indications do show that what we've done has proved to work. and that's evident from business feedback.
Fantastic, thanks Brad. I'll open up to the members of the committee. Any questions, comments at all? Yep, Councillor Pandey.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for providing all the information. We've had some feedback on the light switch on. I don't know if you have gone through the feedback or not. Although it was well attended, but wouldn't it have made more sense if it was organized on a weekend rather than on a Thursday evening? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I think we did do Christmas light switch on over weekends historically. One of the changes of site meant that we also had to incorporate the area in front of the registrar's office. And there were weddings booked in on the Saturday as well, which did leave us in a bit of a pickle, and we had to think about a different way of how we approached it. So we felt that Sunday was always going to be a challenge to get people into the city centre. And with the Saturday not having that site available and there not being any of the sites available in the city, we thought that using the site that was available and having it in the evening and combining that with the night market and partnering up with Love Sadlergate was the best way to maintain numbers coming into the city. We deliberately kept the timing of it very early on into the evening so that it was still family friendly. But it was really the only decent option, we think, for having a Christmas light switch on well attended if we couldn't have that Saturday that we were going to have, so we went towards the evening instead.
So going forward, would it change to Friday evening or it'll stay on Thursday evening? Thank you.
As it stands at the moment, I think we've still got our lessons learned to look at more widely, all the feedback that we've received. I think that we were really comfortable with the numbers and the success of it being on the Thursday night at the same time as the night market. There are always a little bit of restrictions in terms of the time it needs for us to get our city centre offer up and running so that we can maximise the benefit to all the businesses and all the things in and around it. My view at this point in time is we'll be looking to maintain the same evening time, but we'll listen to feedback, and if we do need to make any adjustments, we'll do so.
Mine was the same question. I've had complaints that why is it Thursday? Why not Saturday? And it'll get, if you think the market was on Thursday, you could have had Thursday people coming in and on Saturday coming in as well. You know, we could have more footfall in the city centre. And you say that you've got the registrar office, you could have had it in front of the council house.
So to answer the second point, I think first, we couldn't do it in front of the council house because of the new public realm intervention. So the space that we normally use to do that isn't available anymore. And because of the space that you need behind it to cope with the capacity of 3,500 people attending, the only alternative that we had was to move it to a space where we could accommodate those people, which is why we changed the location slightly to have it in front of the registrar's office. To answer the first point around the Saturday, I mean, it would be perhaps useful for us to have that feedback, and we can incorporate that into the overall feedback of stuff that we've had, and we can take that into the considerations of what we do next. I think we're not wedded to any one solution until we've had those lessons learned and look at what that looks like. So if we could get some of that feedback back, that'd be really useful to feed into the overall process for where we go for this year.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I went to the switch on. I thought it was excellent, and I don't think the Thursday impacted the numbers. It was, I think, probably more busy than I've seen it in the past. What I think was good was combining it with other events. So you've got what was going on in the market hall, plus the switch on, plus the night market. And Electric Daisy as well, so you've got a good variety of things for people to do. So I really enjoyed it. So I would sort of say whatever day of the week it is, if it can try and be held in conjunction with all those other events, I think that will improve the offer. If we can do that. And just a question in terms of if money was no object and you've got a budget of your dreams to sort of go at, what would be the one or two things that you would look to do for future Christmas Christmas celebrations as you know, we try and improve on the offer each year. I'm sure we do that, but what would be the one or two things that you would do to improve the offer still further?
Thank you, Councillor. It's a really good question. One of the challenges we have with Christmas, and one of the challenges in Derby, is that we've got a really small footprint for open public realm space. So if you take the marketplace for what it is, it's important we maintain that, and that we have the ability to do as much as we can in that space. If you take the other areas outside of it, the spot and everything else, they don't have the built-in infrastructure or the capacity to have anything that's done at scale. So that's a bit of a challenge for us as a city. It's one of the main natural benefits Nottingham have. They've got a great big open public realm space, which is why they can have larger fairs and larger things coming into them, which we just don't have the capacity to squeeze in. So I guess the best way I could answer that question would be to look at built-in infrastructure in around some of the areas of the city. The sad truth is the more sites that you have when you're doing a Christmas offer, the more money goes on security, fencing, overnight, all of the built-in infrastructure that makes it so you have to take a certain proportion of what that is. In a utopian world, then I would have much more public realm space to do some of that with, so that would be including utilising further areas of things like in Iron Gate and everywhere else. But I think some of the better wins are how we can work better in partnership across those different areas and utilise the different event activities. So, for example, being able to fund and work more closely with Love Sadler Gate on more events across that end of the city means more events that we can work in partnership with and generate more footfall. That would tend to have more impact than a new big shiny thing that you put in, because there's not really the space to put it in anywhere, and it would detract from other stuff that goes in the city. I think that's probably as good as an answer I can give you without a budget.
Brad, I don't know whether yourself, in terms of if there was more money available, what could we do? I don't know if anything from yourself on what the bids would like to see if money was no object.
Thank you, Chair. Again, with money being no object, I think enhancements to the Christmas lights that we've had for many years now, and slowly doing that, we are working with partners, including the council, to look at how we develop a new lighting system around the city. Again, with that and changing those comes infrastructure costs. So if Councillor Rawson's happy to give us an amount that we could spend, I'm sure we could happily spend that on infrastructure as well as updating the lighting scheme that we see in every city around the country. So I think that's the next step for us, is to enhance some of the lighting and add more activities across weekends and during the week to drive that footfall.
Fab, thanks, Brad. And Robbie, to on the spot you as little as I can in this question, I'm not going to ask you if you're getting any additional money for Christmas. It wouldn't be for yourself to announce that. Are we seeking additional money? Because the last thing we want to do is burden you with far more budget than could be delivered. We end up underspending, we end up in a difficult position. Is it the case that we think for next year we'd like some additional funding, or is it the case that actually we've probably got what we need for now with a few tweaks here and there? We can continue to deliver a strong offer under the budget that we've got, because obviously we've got rising energy costs, rising costs of a lot of things. That has a big knock-on impact when we're talking about lights and things like that. How is the budget set for delivering what we've got and a bit more for next year?
So to answer that, I guess as best I can, you make a really good point about the rising cost of infrastructure, utilities costs and everything else. So there is an element where sometimes a little bit more success just goes to cover cost. I think that the question of whether we could do more with more, I think if you asked any council manager if they wanted more money, they would probably say yes. But some of that could also just be around some of the infrastructure, around having the people to help work more collaboratively and bring more things in. So I think we would always try and do more with more if we have it. I think the more stuff we can do in partnership, the more we can do to bring our cultural partners in and our cultural groups in. So by cultural partners, not necessarily the people, the big hitters that have venues, but some of the people that provide stuff. Being able to grow the grassroots cultural infrastructure and have more activity going on is a really great way of using money in quite a small way to have a large cultural impact. If we're talking huge amounts of money, then you can look at bigger structures, bigger things that go over the top of it, and bigger resource that goes in. But it's quite a big scale. The more you do big things, the cost underneath it ramps up as well. So I think it's kind of, we always try and work within whatever budget we've got. obviously.
Fabulous, thanks Robbie. And that kind of leads me on to another question really around, I know previously having sat on the bids before, there was discussion about how the council worked in silos quite a bit of the time. And I think a lot of that communication and collaboration happened very late on in the process. I think that certainly occurred when we didn't have a budget because we were cobbling together everything we could at the last minute. We were coming to the bids far too late and everything else. So a question really for both of you, now that we've got the budget there, now that we can do that long-term planning, has that really improved a lot of the ways we can collaborate and work together? I think Brad, if you want to go first on that.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, as I said earlier, the last 3 years, those relationships have developed more and more. We now start having our festive derby meetings come February, March. I think what we do with our budgets as far as supporting, the Cathedral Quarter Ice Rink and contra sponsorship deals works really, really well. We engage with the businesses that want to be engaged with and support them in getting their adverts into the Festive Derby magazine and have supported everything that we can do with that. So I think the relationships have developed over the last 3 years, certainly. And I think the more we can do with that, absolutely, it just proves for a better Christmas.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think having fixed budgeting was a huge step forward for us to be able to maintain and create those relationships, start a process of organising things earlier, have better lines of communication. I think fundamentally what we want when we do the activity in the city centre is to generate footfall and give businesses the confidence that they can open longer hours, sustain the work that they do and contribute back into the economy in the city centre so that we become more resilient within our business sector, within our even things like the reduction of antisocial behaviour is improved by having more good things going on in the city. My ideal would be to get to a point where we could look at late night shopping again and get people feeling confident about we don't care what night it is, we're just going to go into Derby and see what's going on. So the more stuff that we can do to move that agenda forward, and it all comes through partnership, it all comes through the great work of Love Sat the Gate, the great work of the bids, the great stuff that goes on in the venues. Derby's a city that has so much good stuff going on and it's a challenge to help people A, believe it and B, come to it. So the more things we can do to that, the better the city will be.
Any more questions for anybody at all? Yep, Councillor Fack.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it at Christmas. There was only one drawback for me. I mean, I love the Nordic bar, the ice rink. I went to the pantomime and everything. And this is out of your remit probably, but the Market Hall I thought was flat. They got some lovely singers on. I didn't go at the light switch on. I went on the Saturday. And yeah, the singers were good. Everything about that was really good, but other than that, it was just flat. But I think that's how the Market Hall is at the moment, full stop. So I don't think that's anything that you guys can immediately put right. And it's to be hoped that by next Christmas, you'll have a more successful Market Hall that you'll be able to do something with.
I didn't catch that.
It's just, oh, shut up. Siri. Yeah, so it's an observation more than, I haven't got a criticism at all of anything else. I thought it was good and I enjoyed it and my grandchildren did. It was just going in the Market Hall, I thought it was flat.
Market Hall does sit under me, so it's a fair challenge. I think the thing I would say is that the development of the market offer is a slow burn. There's a lot, we've had Martin's moving in, we've got a whole new load of traders that have come in recently. We have a long, drawn-out journey to get the best offer for the market in the city and have people coming into it. And part of that process is to put good things on and for people to learn there's good things coming on and coming back more regularly. I think that the programme for 2026 is really positive. I know that we've had to overcome building challenges and all sorts of different things on the process so far, but we're only 6 months just over into the building opening. And there's a lot of work that goes into that activity to give people, again, the confidence to come in and to come in regularly and believe that, again, you come into the Market Hall, that there's going to be something coming on to see. So I think the work is a continual build to develop that audience in different ways, whether it's an audience to come and shop regularly, an audience to come and eat, and things like our food, price points, all of these sort of things we continually work on and will continue to work on. And hopefully that'll pay a greater dividend. I will say, anybody who came to the Market Hall on the Christmas light switch on night, it was standing room only and all sorts of things as well. And it is a little bit peaks and troughs at the moment where we can get really high numbers of people coming in, and then other days when less so. But as I say, it's a work in progress, and we're continually pushing that to be the biggest success it can be.
Thanks, Robbie. Any more questions to anybody at all? Okay, just a couple of other quick ones from myself then. So 4.5 in the report, we talk about the advertising that was done in terms of the programme that goes out to everybody. So it goes out to 120,000 households. Are they all within the city boundaries, or do we go out of the city boundaries to anywhere?
I think it is predominantly city centre and in and around there. I think we could probably give you a more detailed door drop of where it actually goes to. And I think that some of the door drop is obviously very localised because that's people in footfall area of the city. But then we do stuff more widely, things like the roadside boards. You know, when you're driving in to Derby, you'll see them when you're coming in from different areas that are advertising the offer that we've got in there. The marketing team worked really hard to try and meet people from all sorts of different distances, if you like, from the city centre, and have different strategies for that as well, and then work in partnership, and then even during the different events that are going on, things like exit flyering for different events as well. So there's continually pushing for product, if you like, across the city that we do, even things like we were advertising for the Master Snooker from the TP bar and things like that. So again, partnership working, contribution, but yeah, to answer the question in short, predominantly the city centre for the door drop.
I think yeah, it'd be interesting to know where we door drop and where we don't. And I think if we go outside that city boundary, because I'd imagine there are some parts of sort of Bredsall Village or parts of Quarndon or parts of Borrowash that might be nearer to the city centre than, for example, the southernmost point of Chellaston or southern points of Littleover, Mickleover sort of thing. I think it would be interesting to see if we as a council are seeing it as a council boundary, because obviously people from Borrowash, I imagine, are coming into the city. People in other areas of the city might be going out of the city for other purposes. It would be interesting to see where we door drop and if we've ever tried going out of the city boundary. So I think that'd be an interesting thing. If that's something you could circulate at some point after the meeting when that's known, that'd be quite an interesting thing to see in a bit more detail.
Yeah, I'm happy to share that with marketing. I mean, they make those decisions, and I'm sure there's algorithms and stuff and different strategies they use that are the reason for what they do, but we can feed that back.
Fab, thanks, Robbie. And the other question was around, obviously, we're now prepping ahead for Christmas coming forward for this year now. Demolition of the assembly rooms is also very much on the table for this year. I think there's been an aim to it last year. It hasn't been done. It may well be done this year. If it goes ahead, it's going to be months and months of project that will disrupt the city centre quite a lot, specifically where a lot of the Christmas things have been held. Are we putting plans together for next Christmas on the basis of if that demolition goes ahead, things are going to have to move, things may not be able to be where they were before, and have we sort of got that in place really, or got plans in place for if that happens to get that advertising done as soon as possible and at the appropriate time for Christmas?
It's hard to have direct plans that are going into there because no decision's been taken, and that's obviously for a different forum than this and for a different officer than me. But I think we try and keep an eye on it and look at what different options might look like, but we're still sort of swimming in the dark until we have clear direction and clear approval for those things to go ahead.
Fabulous, thank you. Any more questions at all from anybody? No, fabulous. Well, Robbie, Brad, thank you so much for coming along to present to us today. Very helpful, very informative. And I think I second what everybody said in that I thought this was a very, very strong Christmas. It was very heartening to see the turnout in the city centre, very heartening to see the turnout for the pantomime, and really heartening to see the city centre so busy, even during the downpour. It was fantastic every time I went in there. I think it was a really, really strong offer, and I think the more we can continue to build on that, the better. And I hope that in the discussions that Cabinet are going to have, that it's taken note of what's been able to be delivered, but also the pressures that we've got and the need to compete with other city centres, and that can be reflected in funding that's awarded to you for the budget going forwards. So hopefully that's something that will be taken into consideration.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Fabulous. So we'll move on then to next item on our agenda. So item 6, which is the report on parks and open spaces. So this is one that we requested as our committee. The report is to enable us to consider parks and open spaces audit recommendations referred to by the Board of Audit and Governance. And of course, we've added some bits extra that we wanted to see as our committee as well. So we have Owen with us and we have Werner with us. So I'll hand over to both of you to present this report.
Thank you, Chair. So, hello everyone. Owen Swift, I'm the Head of Climate and Active Environments, to present this report on parks and open spaces. So there was a couple of asks, really, I suppose, within the report that's being put forward. And one of those is around the audit recommendations following an audit that was done last year, or concluded last year in 2025 for parks and open spaces. Many of those actions and agreed actions and recommendations are still live and they are still being worked through. The deadline for the vast majority of those is by the end of the financial year, end of March 2026, and then there's some that slip a bit further into that as well. I think the key thing is with the audit report and the audit recommendations is that as a service we worked extremely closely with the audit team around trying to identify areas and gaps within the service area that we knew needed improvement, and one of those being really based around assets and asset management, our approach to how we manage, maintain, develop, and also to some degree fund some of our assets as well. And some of that's come through very strongly in the recommendations and areas identified as weaknesses within the service area from the audit recommendations. So those recommendations were attached as appendices to the report. In addition, there was also a request for looking at what the Parks and Open Space Capital Programme was for last year, this year, and then also for future years. So what does that programme look like? So all of those were attached as appendices to the report. Just to note that that capital programme and how that is funded is made up of various funding sources. So some elements of that is unsupported borrowing. Some of those are Section 106 contributions, and some are also grants and external grant, either capital and or revenue contributions. And some of the schemes that will be listed within the appendices, some of those will be maybe solely funded by one funding source, and some will be funded by multiple as well. And so all of that was presented in terms of the appendices for the report. In addition to that, there was also a request for understanding the minor works budget and minor works funding. So the minor works fund, that funds, I suppose, the revenue aspects of the Parks and Open Spaces programme, and that's largely reactive. So there's approximately £100,000 allocated for all parks and open spaces and green spaces in the city, which is in excess of 375. To address urgent repairs and health and safety issues. And there's a further £80,000 revenue dedicated to supporting and maintaining the development of play areas and games areas. There has been and are a number of challenges within the service area and has been for a number of years. And while budget constraints and in-year saving requirements have limited this service's ability to implement a fully planned or preventative maintenance programme, I think the committee should and hopefully is assured that decisions made on investment and prioritisation are based on an experienced team, and a really knowledgeable, experienced team of professionals who are working hard to develop our parks and open spaces and its infrastructure and the assets within there. And part of that is around developing our evidence base to actually make sure we have the rationale to make sure that investment really is targeted in the right places. And an example of that is a recent, last year, where we've concluded an evaluation audit and detailed inspection condition data on our play areas, which is then actually providing the evidence base for how and where we start to redevelop play areas. In addition to that, over the past 2 to 3 years, the service has faced some further significant challenges relating to capacity, in terms of staffing capacity. Asset condition is a really, really important one, and organisational change. And sometimes, actually, the revenue funding that I've touched on before, that is usually largely there to be reactive. There has been challenges with actually utilising that budget in year, just due to budget constraints that we may have had throughout that year. And therefore, that's also limited our capacity in terms of being able to respond. There has been departmental reorganisation as well, and the departure of long-serving staff has impacted on some succession planning within the team and the recruitment. And it's taking time, and has taken a bit of time, to rebuild those skills and knowledge. In addition to that, we do have acknowledged a weakness, which is in our asset management approach within parks and open spaces, and that's clearly a recommendation that came through the audit report and something that we strongly wanted for that to feature in there. So actually a lot of work has started to take place over the last 12 months and moving forward as part of our work programme business plan to develop our asset management approach. I touched on developing our evidence base around play areas, for example. That was the first of many in terms of where we want to go with that work. I suppose some of those challenges have also been further compounded by the evidence of that lack of clear evidence-based replacement. So actually, we don't have a a clear sense all in one place around all of the assets that are on parks and open spaces and the condition of those, and also the replacement life cycle of those. We have it for some, not for all. That's the work that the service is doing now. To do that work, it takes capacity, and it does take time to make sure that we're doing that assessment and we're doing that right. And I think some of the results of not having that clear evidence-based program and asset management approach is clear from probably some of the things that we've seen maybe over the last 24 months, 18 to 24 months. Things like Marquise and paddling pool. It wasn't last year, but the year before, it was more or less closed for an entire season because it's deteriorated. Actually, the asset is deteriorating and does need replacement. Monday Play Centre, and we also have a number of structures and buildings on parks and open spaces where actually they are not in a good place. So actually, Darley Fields, where the majority of our community park ranger team is based out of, actually a lot of that building is now unusable, and we are slowly vacating and moving out of that, just like some of the structures and buildings that we have on parks and open spaces. So we're working closely with colleagues internally in property to look at actually what the approach is for actually those buildings and those buildings that aren't fit for purpose anymore, and thinking about the asset management approach and life cycle replacement of those. There was a request for to look at what major schemes of note has there been for the service and that have been delivered. I suppose what we've just done is, in terms of the report, we've just presented probably two based really, one on reputation and probably one based on finance, just in terms of its why it's a major scheme. So the first one is Alastair Rewilding Scheme. I'm sure the committee is aware of the Alastair Rewilding Scheme and that project. It is a £1.2 million revenue project. That aspect of the project is actually led by Derbyshire Wildlife Trust in partnership with ourselves and others, in terms of including the university. I suppose just like the previous presentation that Robbie was talking about in terms of the strength of partnership and collaboration in terms of delivering good outcomes and delivering good outputs and projects, etc. That's exactly what Alastair Rewilding is. It's a project to transform Alastair Park into a large-scale nature-rich landscape. I think I will need to fact check this, but I do believe it is still the largest urban rewilding project in the country. That may have changed, but I'll double check that one. And it receives significant awareness and has significant interest from across the country as well as locally in terms of the work that is going on there. In terms of, I suppose, size, scale, and in terms of a capital investment for scale, the largest one that's been delivered on parks and open spaces in recent years is the Racecourse Hub in Chaddesden West. That was a nearly £12 million investment to deliver a high-quality community and sports and community facility at the racecourse, significantly improving access, facilities, and overall experience of that green space. It was just a green desert of grass football pitches and a building isolated in the middle. It is now a community hub. And the wider improvements that we made around that site weren't just around the building and making it a better environment for footballers, which is important, but it was also around how do we transform that site and that space into more of a community facility where people who live in that community see it as something for them, and actually converting it into that's something more akin to a park and a green space, not just football pitches. And that has happened, and it is working. It's been integrated into the surrounding parkland area, and that was work that came through very, very strongly through our community engagement work and public consultation, demonstrating strong support for those types of facilities in that area, not just around footballers. How we go about some of our consultation and engagement within the service, especially where we have projects such as play areas. So we have a two-stage process for things like play areas where we are looking at redeveloping those. So I've talked about the evidence base that's now being developed, which allows us to think about prioritising investment for redeveloping play areas. There's a two-stage consultation process that happens. The initial consultation seeks community views on what's to be seen to be delivered. And then there are multiple designs that are then developed for those play areas that the community are then consulted on through the Let's Talk Derby consultation framework. And detailed in the report is a high-level summary, really, of the engagement and responses that have happened for some of those recent consultations for 6 play areas, stroke fitness areas in the last calendar year and financial year. So, for example, Stockbrook Play Area, initial consultation of 405 responses, and then actually when when designs were presented to the community and the public to respond, there was 337 responses. Queen's Ferry Gardens Play Area, there was initial consultation of 88 responses with final responses of 50. And there was also a request and an ask around innovative approaches or innovative work that is happening within parks and open spaces, and I suppose what's being delivered through the programme, but also through the service area. And one thing I would say is that I would say many of the aspects of work that may be considered innovative are probably in line with best practice and what we deliver as a service. So we aim to embed standards around inclusivity and requirements for thinking about outdoor play, ensuring that our projects are inclusive, there's accessible play, including things like SEND provision. There's a recent project that's just been delivered around using widget boards and sign language boards in line with play area. And that's different, that's not new, that doesn't happen everywhere. But I think for us as a service area, we've embedded that into our working practice. So it is innovative, but actually we see almost that as business as usual because we have an inclusive approach, an inclusive way of doing things. Similarly, things like tree planting, community orchards, and long-term land management through high-level stewardship has been part of what the council and the service area has been doing for probably over a decade now. So actually we aim to be innovative in what we do as our business as usual. There was also a request to understand the impact of solar lighting, because I know there had been some challenges this year in the last, especially on some of our parks and open spaces with lighting and solar lighting. So as a bit of context, in 2025, a structural defect was identified in the solar lighting column. It was leaning. And so a rapid assessment was done on all those types of lighting columns on parks and open spaces and wider across the city to ensure that measures were put in place to make these safe. This has resulted in the loss of solar lighting, specifically being removed from several parks and green spaces in the city, Oakwood Park, Osmondson Park, to name a few. And that has had an impact on public perceptions of safety and accessibility. And we have had feedback and complaints from residents about that, and we recognise that that is a real concern, because it does affect people's ability to potentially use spaces because of personal safety and the importance of feeling safe through well-lit routes through parks. I suppose the challenge we have around then that lighting is the replacement of it. Do we replace like for like, where actually to some degree there is potential of solar lighting? Was that the right solution in the first place? Or does that need to be mains connected lighting so it's more robust, so it's more consistent and actually provides that level of safety and lighting that's required to use those spaces? So replacement options for those are subject to being options appraised currently, and a feasibility study on the solar lighting across green spaces is currently in process to see what is required on all of those spaces. In addition, the minor works budget that we do fund through the revenue budget, that has and is predominantly reactive and focusing on urgent repairs for health and safety issues. And as I previously mentioned, budget constraints and in-year savings has probably limited some of our ability to maybe spend all of that. But I think fundamentally the thing that's underpinning all of our reactive work as well as our development for assets on parks is actually ensuring that we have a robust asset management approach where we understand all of our assets, we understand the condition of all of those assets, and actually the life cycle replacement of those means that we can then plan and prepare to ensure that those assets are maintained how they should be, but then also then to support thinking about what the capital programme needs to be to support the asset management approach. Thank you.
Fabulous, thank you, Owen. And that was quite the whistle-stop tour through everything there, but very much appreciate the depth and the detail that's been gone into there. And I think in terms of what audit and governance asked us to look at and then what we asked you for, I think that's touched on every single one of the points that we asked for, and I very, very much appreciate that. So any questions from the committee at all? Councillor Pandya, so your hand first.
Hi, Owen. Thank you so much. I'll be quick with my questions. So with the play zones, is it okay to ask questions about play zone? Okay. So play zones, I think Normanton Park pitch, it was badly laid and it had to be relaid, if I'm not wrong. And also, was the planning permission required for the play zones at Normanton Park and at the Elveston Park? Because I've seen the planning permission for Stockbrook had to come to the council. So was it same for Elveston and Normanton? And the expenses borne for the relaying of the pitches at the Normanton Park, who is bearing it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just for knowledge and context, really, so the play zone at Normanton Park is actually a project that's been led on and was led on by sporting communities. So the area where the play zone was developed in Normanton Park, sporting communities leased that land from the City Council. So they were the lead applicant and they applied to the Football Foundation for the funding to deliver and develop that project. So it was all sporting communities led. So in terms of the quality of the work that's gone down, that has probably not been as sufficient as what it should be. But it's the sporting communities that led on that development and that project, so it's their project, not the City Council's. In terms of the replacement of the carpet, that's all at the expense of sporting communities and or any funding that they are accessing to enable that to happen. With regards to planning, all of the developments, be that a play zone at Normanton Park or Alveston Park, they have all gone through planning, and a planning application was required for all of those, similar to Stockbrook Recreation Ground as well.
Just to follow back on this one, so if so Elveston Park is all council, right? It's all managed by council. So if sporting community for some reason is not able to run that pitch, what will happen then?
It's a bit similar to if they are not able to run the building that they have a lease on as well in the park, then that would then come back to the council.
And if Elveston Park was allowed to, the play zone was a council decided to run it, so why was Mackworth not given the same option? Because we were told that there would be some organization would be required to run it. But if council can do it at the Elveston Park, then why were we not given that option in Mackworth? Thank you.
Sure, no, it's fine. So as part of the play zone programme, there was a number of sites that were identified as potential opportunities to run, or that where a play zone could potentially be developed. Knightsbridge Recreation Ground, I believe, was one of those. But at the time, looking at where we have facilities on site, either presence on site or strong relationships on site, that was one of the determining factors in terms of choosing a site. So Alveston Park, for example, is one of our flagship parks. It's a green flag park. We have a presence there on site already. There's a building there. There are tennis courts that we manage on there. There's a cafe there. So there is a presence on a daily basis from the City Council. Knightsbridge Recreation Ground, for example, we don't have that. So actually, in terms of being able to operate something from a revenue perspective, a service perspective, it would be really, really difficult. Whereas having a community-built facility and potentially a community ownership and management of a facility, something like that maybe at Knightsbridge potentially could work, subject to there being the partners inside that could do that.
Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Chair. My question is regarding safety. I think last year, one of the parks, Breton Park, got vandalized, and I think the CCTV cameras, I was approached that they wasn't functional, and the solar lights with them. So I think safety for the resident was quite a bit of a concern about having them CCTV cameras there, and after that money we spent on vandalism in the playing area and everything, it costed quite a bit. So why wasn't the cameras functional last year, or will they be working in the future? Because having less ranges there now, obviously the public does rely a lot on the cameras, and I think them cameras, we need a warning lights, things that the people get aware that there are CCTV cameras here watching you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. I'm not aware of the current operations of those cameras and or lights in terms of their state and whether they are or aren't working. So what I'll have to do is go back, I'll find out the status report on that, be that from last year and currently. Now, can I feed that back to both committee and yourself, if that's okay? Just to understand if there are any issues with regards to them not working or not. So I'll have to take that one back. I don't know off the top of my head. Just you did mention a point about the play area. It was really unfortunate. It's actually the redevelopment of the play area there. There was some vandalism that took place, getting into the fencing. It was an unfortunate thing, which meant that the play area was delayed opening up. And unfortunately, I think sometimes we just can't legislate for that type of behaviour happening within communities. Would CCTV potentially presented that? Potentially not. But I think if that's just mindless vandalism, actually, that's destroying a community asset.
Chair, I think I've been based there nearly 20 odd years now in the park. And with the warning sticker on, I think it does help and it gives confidence to the users and the community. So I did approach the parks and they said at that time they said there was something wrong with them because when they first were put in with the funding in partnership with the lottery, it was given confidence that these going to be working. So I don't know if you remember, but lottery and the council went in partnership to refurbish the park a while back. Yeah, so this should have been working, but I've chased it up and also they say we can't see and get any evidence because they're not very clear at night.
Yeah, I think that development was at the heart in the park. Well, that helped to build the pavilion, so a number of years ago. But yeah, what I will do though, Councillor, I will take that away as an action and find out the current status and actually what it was for the last 12 months as well. Actually, if they are not working, when was that and what's the current status? And if not, then we'll make sure we can see what the timescales are for repair. But by the sounds of it as well, if that's some of the original camera work, they're probably maybe past the best anyway, so it might be looking at some form of replacement if they've not been replaced in recent years. But I'll take that away.
Thank you, and just to build on that a little bit, really, obviously I'm not going to ask you to go in depth into all the crime stats. That wasn't really something we asked to feature in this one, but sort of from a service perspective, obviously there's a difference between vandalism on parks and vandalism of parks. In terms of vandalism of parks and of equipment and of things like that, do we think we're seeing an increase, a decrease, maintaining about level? Because I mean, I know my park's seen vandalism, I know other parks across the city have seen vandalism. Then on the other side, you get people vandalising things on parks or burning motorbikes on parks, which aren't really the same thing in nature. Are we seeing an increase in vandalism of parks?
It's a really difficult one to say. I would suggest no. I don't think we're seeing an increase in vandalism. How much of it is classed as business as usual? You know, the things of swings and then swing seats being cut. There's probably no real pattern to it, and it's quite sporadic. So I wouldn't necessarily say that we're seeing an increase in the vandalism of parks. I think when new developments potentially are going in, and there's an element of construction, I think that potentially attracts some form of vandalism because it's a new thing, it's a new play area type thing for maybe some people to engage with and destroy a community asset. And I think that's no different. We had some really good they weren't good examples. We had examples of that when the racecourse hub opened in Chadderstone West, where there was a series of bits of vandalism happening quite frequently in the early days. Predominantly with young people, but I think that was possibly part of the young people in the community understanding their place with that site and how do they interact with that, because previously the facility that was there wasn't something for them. It was closed up all the time, so actually they saw the new facility as not something for them. So I think having better engagement might help with some of that, but I think in answer short to your question, I don't think there has been an increase. It's probably just similar or maintained, and it's so sporadic.
Thanks, Owen. Any more questions from anybody at all? Okay, I've got a couple of bits on mine from the report. So, looking at sort of the Friends of Park groups is something that's been mentioned to me a few times recently. I know at our new parks office it's something we're looking at with them. Is it something we're still picking up as a council? Are we looking to get more groups, and are we looking to really strengthen and enhance the groups that we've got?
Yes, and yes. Absolutely. So even just as recently as last Monday, there was the Green Heart Awards that took place at Derby Arena, which was an awards for all of the community groups, including Friends of groups, the Earl of Harrington Fishing Group, allotment societies across the city that are doing phenomenal work on our parks and open spaces. And to be fair, the quality of our parks and open spaces wouldn't be as good as what it is now if we didn't have those groups working with us and alongside us. So absolutely, yeah, we have a team that really well supports and works in partnership again with those groups. Many improvements that we see on parks and open spaces, be that revenue funded, capital funded, and or just jobs and stuff being done, is done through those groups and those communities. The Derby Parks volunteers, they go out and do maintenance of projects on our parks and open spaces. Again, a phenomenal resource, and actually that's about us, how do we support those? So yes, it's friends of groups and others, Allotment Societies, Earl of Harrington Fishing Club, etc. They are groups that we support, will continue to support, continue to champion, because actually they're probably the heart and soul of our parks and open spaces, and actually build a community around them as well. Do we want to see more? Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things where there is some energy and some enthusiasm within communities to do that, we will be there to help support and hopefully nurture that to grow.
Fabulous, thanks Owen. And turning to Section 106 funding as well, obviously we mentioned Section 106 funding is a vital element of parks funding. Section 106 funding also has deadlines to its expenditure. How are we feeling in terms of things that are are coming up to expire in the next year or the next 2 years? Have we got projects in place? Are we progressing things as we would like them to be?
Yeah, there's no concerns in terms of expiry dates for the Section 106 that's allocated to parks and open space. So we're fully confident in that. As I touched on in the presentation from the report, I think our emerging and developing asset management approach really gives us then that strategic evidence base to really start motoring and getting those projects delivered more at pace. There is a challenge sometimes about delivering that at pace because the size of the capital programme means actually we need the capacity to deliver it as well. So it does come with some challenges, but I think I am confident that actually the programme that we've currently got together, the team that's now being built around developing these projects, developing them with alongside the community, and hopefully some of the committee and wider council has seen that some of the projects that are starting to now be delivered now compared to maybe where we were 3-4 years ago, we're starting to see that big transformation of some of our parks and open spaces on all levels as well, not just the profile parks, but some of our community green spaces, which are just as important for our residents.
Fabulous, thank you. Turning to a few bits in the report, so 4.1 talks about the priority schemes and the essential asset improvements that we're doing as well. How do we decide what comes under a priority scheme in each financial year and then what comes under as a essential asset improvement? Is it purely down to the risk assessment side of things and what we've analysed, or is there more to it than that?
A combination. So I mentioned that we have gaps in terms of our evidence and our evidence base. So for something like play and play areas, we have a really good, solid, strong evidence base now. And that evidence base is based on, yes, condition, but it's also based on propensity within what the population is around a play area, what the population of young people is around the area, what may looking at health demographics that sits alongside that, and also the condition and also the life cycle replacement. So where we have that really, really strongly for play, that's where we want to get to with the other assets. And that's everything from where we've identified things like potentials around delivering play zones. So Councillor Pandy talking about play zones and potential around stock recreation ground. We know what we've got there is a completely dilapidated mugger on that site, which actually isn't really something that we would want to the standard for our community. And that was the same for Alveston Park. In Alveston Park, we had 2 dilapidated multi-use games area type courts that had not been open to the community. They had been fenced off for 8 years plus. So actually utilising things like play zones are an opportunity for us to really think about bringing in external resource to help facilitate delivering again. So safety comes into it. Propensity in terms of priority audiences and communities also comes into it. So depending on the type of asset, depending on the level of asset, because an asset could be anything from a bollard, which might be around health and safety, through to a play area.
Fabulous, thanks Owen. And one other question from myself on this one. So 4.9.4, so the consultation engagement that we had on the various projects that were proposed, 25, 26. For 5 of those projects, it sort of alternates in terms of the responses at the initial consultation, then the responses at the final consultation, alternates between sort of 50% less and 50% more. Alveston fitness area dropped off a cliff in terms of the responses. It went from 113 in the initial consultation, then just 16 responses for the final consultation. So we're down 97 on there. What was it that happened in that time frame in terms of did people just not like it? Did they want something else, or was it just a low engagement?
I think in that particular case, it was probably just maybe a low engagement to that second phase. So actually, for that specific project, Alston Fitness Area is around replacement of an existing asset that had been there. So the existing asset is one of the old Addy zones, which was done pre-2012 Olympics, so probably about 2010. Virtually none of the equipment actually worked, so actually it needed to come out. So we were replacing it with a fitness area, and actually a fitness area is a fitness area. So maybe people just accepted, we want a fitness area, but actually what it looks like, yeah, unsure.
In its defence, it is the only fitness area one on there, while the others were looking at the park. So yes, that does make sense in terms of why it may be a bit lower. Any more questions from anybody at all? No. Okay, so I have got a recommendation for this one that I had a chat with the Vice Chair about in bringing this. I know, and I think you probably knew this one was coming around the solar lighting from before. My ward is one of the ones that has lost the solar lighting, and what it's opened my eyes to more than anything is just how much lighting makes people feel safe on parks. I always knew it did, I think we all knew it did, but seeing how many people say, not only do I feel a bit unsafe, but I feel so unsafe I will not go to my park now in the dark, in hours when it's darker. I figured there'd be some people affected by it. I didn't figure the sheer range of people that would be impacted by that. And I know it's something the council's been looking at for some time since they came out. And I know it has a financial element to it, which is difficult to achieve within the budgets that we have now. So the recommendation that I've got, and I've tried to take into account, obviously we mentioned CCTV as well. I think that again is something that gives people a lot of a feeling of safety around parks. It has its limitations. Sometimes it can be defeated by a balaclava. There's no alternating that, but it does have its benefits, I think, as well, in terms of that feeling of safety and that perception of safety and that ability to look at what has gone on. So the recommendation that I've drafted, and again I'm open to suggestions and amendments to it, is that the committee recommends that the Cabinet seeks to use non-ring-fenced funding available as part of the 26-27 budget to provide appropriate and sufficient financial provisions to install mains lighting at all locations where solar lighting has been removed, and to seek to install additional lighting and CCTV in parks across Derby, which would benefit from these. And I put an including on there Chellaston Park, as I know that's a discussion that's been going on for a while around that particular park. I don't want to limit it in terms of parks, but I know there's ongoing discussion going on there as well. Happy to thoughts on the committee, whether that's something we'd be happy to propose. It's not binding in the sense we can't bind the Cabinet. It's asking them to have a look at that non-ring fenced funding. And Councillor Rawson, as you'll know from the exec, we don't have a figure yet of how much that is. We're waiting to get that figure, but it's asking them to have a look at that funding and see if it can be used to reinstate what's already there and seek those improvements around solar lighting and around CCTV. So happy to take committee's thoughts on that one.
So you said CCTV cameras, existing parks that's got CCTV cameras, they need to be maintained or...
So it's to look at reinstalling the lighting where the lighting's been removed, but I'm not aware that CCTV has been removed from anywhere, but it would be a case of looking at that additional provision, whether that's where the parks have already got CCTV and it needs updating or needs changing, or whether we haven't got it and we think it would be appropriate. So it doesn't set a specific amount, it doesn't set specific locations, it asks Cabinet to take a look at essentially what is outstanding and look at the money that's been provided and take a view from there. And obviously we can't bind Cabinet because we can't bind Cabinet. It's a recommendation to them. So I think, Councillor Ingle, you said you'd be happy to second that one. Would we all be happy with that? Yep, Councillor Rawson.
Yeah, just to say as well, there's to potentially expand it out to look at other sources of funding, Section 106 and MCA potentially, because if it's supporting cycling and active travel, etc., then there's a case we can potentially make to MCA, which I think would fall support there.
No, that's an absolutely excellent point. So if I amend it then to say to use any non-ring fence funding available as part of the 26-27 budget and all other available funding streams, would that tick that box? Fabulous. Everybody be okay with that? Show of hands for those in favour. Unanimous, fabulous, thank you everybody. And from a Parks perspective, I hope that's okay for yourselves in terms of it's not binding, it's not putting the additional pressures on the budget as it exists now. I think as a committee we understand the pressures that you're under. It's asking Cabinet to have a look at that additional funding that can be provided for things like that. I know, Owen, that you've been inundated with messages from residents about lighting. I know because myself and Councillor Trella sent you probably most of them, but I know you've had them from a lot of other parks as well. And I think it's asking Cabinet to take a look at the funding available and seek any ways forward there may be.
Just to reassure members as well that the EMCA question is something we all are already looking at and pursuing.
Fantastic, thank you. So is there any more questions or anything from any of the members of the board? Fabulous, brilliant. Well, thank you both for coming along today and for such a thorough report in there. I think it's been great to cover all the points that were listed and those from audit and governance as well. Very much appreciate the time you both spent to be here today.
Thank you, Chair.
So we'll go on then to the final item that we have on our agenda, so looking at the work programme refresh for 25-26. So myself and Lindsay have had a look at when we can get another meeting in. As we always discuss, that we don't like having a break between January and July. The meeting date that we've settled on, Lindsay, remind me, is the 20th? 20th of April is the date we've been able to fix that around what other committees are there and around the schedules of everybody. Hopefully that's a date that we're all okay. It sticks to that Monday date that we're used to. We discussed a couple of meetings ago as well, going down to the CCTV room to have a look at the things there. I think it's becoming increasingly clear doing that on a Monday is not going to be the easiest thing to do. So what we're going to do is have a look at what other dates might be possible, circulate a list of those round, and put on one, maybe two sessions so that we can get there. I think we agreed Fridays might be the better day for that in terms of what we want to see. So we'll try and get that arranged as soon as possible. In terms of the work programme, we've already got the topics on there for the next meeting. We did, of course, have the recommendation from full council for us to have a look at another item on there. I'm going to suggest we look at that for the first meeting of the new year. I think officers are going to need some more time on that. I want to have a chat, and I think the Vice Chair as well, with the proposal of the motion to see what sort of things it was envisioned we would discuss and how we would. I think then committee can take a bit of a view on that one and we can find the most appropriate way to bring that forward. We have the item that we've got, one of the items we've got on there we have moved twice. I don't really want to move it again. And I think the other item we've got on there is equally important that we bring that one. And again, we selected this meeting as the most timely. So I think we'll stick to the work programme that we've got. The additional item we'll look to bring at the most appropriate meeting onwards from there. Is that okay with everybody? Fabulous. That brings our meeting to a close. Thank you all for being here and we'll formally close. Thank you all.